Okay, let's go ahead and get started. 8:01. So good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. As I said a little briefly before, my name is Kathy Leggett. I am with Iowa Workforce Development in the Business Engagement Liaison role, and I'm very excited to be part of this webinar today. It's a great topic and a lot of great panelists here. So thanks again for joining us. This is Iowa Workforce Development and the Department of Education is partnering this year to work on some models in work-based learning that we could scale across the state, and especially that could work in both urban and rural areas, and that have a partnership with employers, school districts, and this one in particular with community colleges, as well as we're going to talk about EMT training with fire departments. As our perspective from Iowa Workforce Development, we definitely want employers in this work, in the structure, and for many reasons. Not only, and one of them is to help meet employer need, but also we know the benefits of really getting high school students connected with that real world experience. Not only helps them find a career path or find one that they don't want, which is just as valuable, but also really helps build those skills that employers are telling us all the time that are lacking sometimes, and they're looking for those employability. Some people may refer to them as soft skills. Those type of things really can be enhanced and built in these work-based learning opportunities. So value all around. When we work together and things like this. We have two great examples of fire departments working with high schools and community colleges, and that's what we're going to share with you today. And that is Mars and Waukee. So they're both a little bit different. So you'll see some flexibility in that, but they are excellent examples. And then one other interesting piece of information that we wanted to share is at least according to the Department of Education, 35 of the 304 high school school districts have students enrolled in an EMT program. So maybe if this isn't something that you have heard about or thought about, this is our hope, is that you will consider looking into this and joining us. And the way that we have worked this cohort is that we would love to have at least maybe 5 and more, if possible, fire departments and school districts join us to work together in a cohort to set up a program similar to what Mars and Waukee are going to present. We have technical support. We have experts who can help you do this. And so we're really looking to expand this. I already talked about some of the benefits, but it can launch careers, but it also can help be a gateway into our healthcare field, which is, we have so many high demand occupations and high need in the healthcare field right now. And many times we use CNA, which is a great gateway for students to get into healthcare, but EMT is also a great gateway. And also it gives students an opportunity to really develop that volunteerism, that community pride, because all across the state, we need EMT providers. And so there's just so much to gain. And I know our speakers will address that. I do want to thank the Iowa Emergency Medical Services Association and the Iowa Fire Chiefs Association for partnering with us on this really exciting endeavor. Definitely want to thank the presenters. And before I move on, I do want to let you know we've pasted a link to a one-pager on this program that provides a lot of great information in the chat. My email is in the chat, as well as Linda Fandel's. And if you are interested in learning more about the cohort and how we might work together to get these programs established, I would just ask you to reach out to us, or to just place your interest in the chat so that we can reach out to you during this. Additionally, questions you can put in the chat, and we hope we'll have some time and we'll do those questions. And then one additional thing I want to say is I've got to not move on without thanking Linda Fandel, who has really spearheaded this project and put so much work into it. And that's why it's going to be a great cohort. It's going to be a great opportunity to put this programming to place in your community if you so desire. So thank you, Linda. So next, we are going to go ahead and move on to our first presenter, and I am going to introduce Tracy Foltz, the Iowa Emergency Medical Services Association President and Chief Medic at the Sioux Center Ambulance. So Tracy, if you can go ahead and take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kathy. Like you said, my name is Tracy Foltz. I'm the Chief Paramedic for the Sioux Center Ambulance, and also the Flight Services Manager for Mercy One Air Med in Sioux City, Iowa. I do serve as the president of the Iowa EMS Association. Been on the association as a board member for about 11 years now, serving that Northwest region of Iowa. Also served as the secretary of the executive committee and now the president of it. So, kind of, I want to thank the Iowa Department of Education and Iowa Workforce Development for allowing IAMSA to partnership in this. I do believe it's a great opportunity moving forward. Gives not only some insight to younger people into the EMT field, but also gives them some insight into fire service. Um, I know from personal experience being in Sioux Center Ambulance, I started there about 13 years ago when I started. We're a combination department. We have paid paramedics and then volunteer EMTs and drivers. When I started 13 years ago, we had a roster of about 33 volunteers. As of this year, we're down to a roster of about 22 volunteers. So I think as everyone can see across the state, the EMT, kind of numbers, whether they're volunteer or, paid EMTs have kind of dropped. And I think this is a really good opportunity to get young people involved in that field. So also, being on the IAMSA board and serving as president, I hear from, lots of services across the state that they're having the same issues. So I'd like to thank the Mars and Fire Department and the Waukee Fire Department. This is a significant commitment on their part. It takes additional manpower hours, additional costs, and just the additional efforts that their departments have to put forward to make these types of programs work. So in 2024, we've seen our first increase in the number of people, becoming EMTs, entering that field, the number of certified clinicians. So I think in 2020, from 23 to 24, it went up 0.5%, which doesn't sound like much, but considering we've been on the downfall since 2018, it's kind of a significant change. So if we can continue, through programs like this to get people involved, especially the younger generations, to move forward. I think if you look, throughout the state of Iowa, using the Iowa, Bureau of EMS statistics, the average age of EMTs in our state is continuously going up. So I think if we can get younger people involved in, the EMS profession at that EMT level, it would be a significant impact to our state. So let's kind of build on that moving forward. I think also one thing this program allows, is a strong mentorship program. Also gets people started orientating, in the EMS field and the fire department field. Throughout, history, fire department, fire personnel have been kind of mentors to the communities. So I think if we can get young people involved in this, get them that positive impact, it might, kind of push them into a direction of, either community service, volunteerism, or, maybe going on to be a paid professional in that field. So I think fire departments, like I said before, are a great foundation for this. They have the ability to provide, maybe manpower hours that, volunteer organizations might not have the ability to provide. I know from an EMS background, EMS services tend to be stretched to the limits. So, some of them might not have the access or the abilities to provide an education opportunity like this. I also like to see, I'd like to thank the high schools. I think as we move forward here, we can do a really good job, partnering with them, getting them to maybe, suggest this, increase awareness to programs like this as we move forward. I think with that being said, I think Iowa EMS Association is here, to kind of partnership with you guys. What I see our role being is just a highway for communications. So, if any fire departments, EMS schools have, the need to get information out to various sources, Iowa EMS Association can push it out to our members. We can also do social media blasts to kind of get the word out and kind of, promote this program in any way we can. So, Kathy, I think that's about.
Great. Thanks. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you so much. And I think that is you made a lot of great points. And one thing I do want to say is even if you're listening or you hear about this, or you're thinking about it and you're like, oh, I don't know who to contact, reach out to Tracy because, through the association, because he can get a hold of us as well. And I appreciate the communication is so important. But again, you hit so many really important points, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John. John, let me introduce you. John is with the Lamar's Fire Department. He is a battalion chief and he works on the Lamar's Western Iowa Tech partnership. And I had the great pleasure of seeing John in action teaching the students this last spring, which was just phenomenal. And we can sit here and talk about this, but to be able to see it in action, and Mark will come after this to just the interest and the excitement and the experience the kids are getting. And they are learning so much information that is incredibly valuable in this training. So anyway, I'm going to stop there, John, and turn it over to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem, Kathy. Thanks for having me. Just to introduce myself a little beyond what Kathy said, as she said, my name is John MacGregor. I'm a battalion chief, EMS chief in Mars, Iowa. I'm a critical care paramedic. Been in EMS since 2001. When I started on the Mars ambulance service, which was a 100% volunteer service when I first started. We've gone through a lot of growth and troubles, as Tracy had pointed out, with drop in numbers and volunteers on our department, to the point where Lamar's Fire and Lamar's Ambulance in 2021 had to make the decision to join and merge and become a full-time combination department. So we have full-time EMS providers and firefighters, as well as volunteer firemen and volunteer EMS providers as well in our department. We currently sit at 12 full-time members, as well as 27 volunteer members as well. Ranging from care levels of EMR all the way through critical care paramedic. And we run just over 2,000 calls a year. So we run a fair amount of calls. We're not huge, but our town's only 10,000 people. So it's a significant load for us with that. But we do keep running on a regular basis. This partnership we've had with Western Iowa Tech and Lamar's Community School District, and it's now branched out to Galen Catholic School System, the private school in town, as well as the Hinton School District. This past year, they had some students join us as well with the program. This program started a number of years ago by my predecessors, and I've just kind of taken over it as some people have retired and moved on. It kind of became my job. That is one of the things I have to do. In addition to being the EMS chief, I'm in charge of all of our EMS training and management of our EMS service in the department. So this just naturally fell into my lap, and it's something to do. It's something I've always liked to do. I became a CPR instructor many, many years ago. I think it was back in 2002. So I've been teaching that, as well as a myriad of other classes that I teach. I enjoy doing that. So I just love teaching it and getting it out to the kids and the students to get that interest in the program and into that. Making it work, our program is a little different than others, and Chandler will talk about his Waukee program and how it's a little different than ours too. Our program is we house it at the fire station, so our students come in every morning, Monday through Friday, from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. or 9:10-ish. They come in for class, and then they are released to go back to their school to continue into their next period classes and continue on. So this is first period of the high school class plus the high school day plus extra time in the morning to be able to get the number of hours required in. They have class here in the station. We have labs here at the station as well. It's a good fit for us because we don't have to take equipment to and from the school. Our trucks can stay in service at any given moment. If we have a call, we can pack up a truck and the kids can step away as the crews respond to calls with that. Makes it really nice for field experience and practice with equipment. As if we're talking about a specific piece of equipment during class that day, we can just actually go out to the truck and grab it, see where it's housed on the truck, and go from there. I hate to say it, but there are some of my students actually knew where stuff was on my ambulances better than some of my volunteer crew members. Unfortunate to say that, but it's the case that they really took advantage of that, knowing what's going on with that. And then as far as the program goes, there's clinical hours they have to do, not only in hospital, but pre-hospital as well. So they get to understand, they get to interact with the fire guys that are here, the guys that are going to be on the department, on the call with them when they go to do their ride time and clinical time near the end of the program. So they get to understand and know how we operate as a department, seeing us on a day-to-day basis. They get to interact with the guys and so on with that. To be an instructor, to do this, if you're not an instructor already, you would just need to get somebody in your department who'd be willing to teach it. And to do so, they just need to be an EMS instructor certified by the state of Iowa and then aligned with a community college in their area that will run the program. To become an instructor, there's multiple different ways to do it. You can take the NAMC 1 level certification as an instructor, or you can become a fire instructor and then be grandfathered in onto the EMS side after you take a class, a webinar, short couple hours with the state, and be approved to be able to teach EMS in the state. I did the NAMSA class because I was on the EMS only side at the time. Got my instructor, and then a few short years later, I ended up getting my fire instructor. So I kind of did it backwards, but to some people in the fire service, but it works that well. Get an arrangement with your community college. It's something you want to do is also with the high school, get an arrangement with them and how it's going to fit into the schedule to be able to do the class, to get enough hours in, to get all the clinical time as well as the lecture time. There's going to be times for the students to do outside of class time. They're going to have to ride in an ambulance. They're going to have to go to the hospital to get contacts for their patients to be able to get that done. So there's going to be a commitment above and beyond just class time. There's a little bit more of a commitment on that with that for the school. We do ours in the spring semester. It works best for us as a department with that. And we just have that relationship with the school that they have that set to do that. Works well with that. Outside of the actual class time, it takes, we teach class for 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday. It probably takes about 8 to 10 hours a week outside of that class time as far as prep goes, tests, grading tests, exams, reviewing stuff, practicing, getting equipment ready, and that kind of stuff set up for class. So it's about 8 to 10 hours outside of class time that you would need to do. Watching the kids grow from the very beginning of class to the end of class. I can tell you that I had 6 students finish in May. 2 of them have passed. I'm very proud of that. That's really cool. And the other 4 have tested, but have not passed the national registry test. That test is very hard for everybody on the call that is an EMT or a paramedic or anything like that. The NREMT is a brutal test. It's very, very hard, does not have a huge first-time pass success rate. But the kids can get through it if they're just push hard and work and study. And they have to realize that they have to read the book and they have to actually study to pass the test. So it's really good to see them grow. At the very beginning, they come in deer in the headlights, have never heard about certain things we talk about. And then all of a sudden, we talk about how at the beginning of the class, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we're going to put a tube in a person's throat and breathe for them and all that kind of stuff. And then at the end of class, they're like, yay, I know how to do this. And I can see it and the light bulbs coming on and the kids making it clicking and everything else is just awesome as an instructor with that. Colleagues have benefited. I know myself as well as other EMS clinicians in my department have commented how they grow as well as they're teaching the students when they're in the trucks with them or working on calls with them, how they grow and become a better clinician themselves with that. Just their learning experience as well. We all learn as we go, having been in the business, and Tracy can attest to it after being in the business for, 20 plus years, you start to, forget a few things. And then when you go back, you have to teach the basics to somebody like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, kind of deal. That's how we do it. And you understand how you were taught. Cost wise for the department, I'm a salaried position. So I don't get any extra compensation or anything else with that. It's just part of my job. As far as equipment costs and wear and tear, I department training budget covers that. So we use our materials for that. And we use a lot of our own training stuff as well, stuff that's already designated for training in our department. We just use it for the class as well. So whether I'm training EMT students at the high school level or I'm training our paramedics in a class, we use the same equipment over and over again. So the equipment's there, but there is a little bit of cost of upkeep and stuff with that going on with that stuff. Getting the students who want to be in the class, make sure that they have, I wouldn't say vet the students, but understand that the students understand the commitment that this is going to take and go through that. I know there were a couple of students in the past that have thought it was just an easy class. They were going to be out of class early and stuff. And it would be an early morning. I don't know why you'd want to get up early as a high school student, because I never did. But be able to go to class, read the textbook, see the lecture, and go from there. As a fire department, we're super committed to this. We're not in it to get people to join our department. In actuality, of the 6 students that went through my class, none of them will probably join our fire department, none at all. We have some that will join neighboring departments, which is great for them. And that's all what it's all about. It's all about getting people into the EMS business in the state, so we can get those numbers to continue to grow, especially at the younger age level, so we can get them in early and get learning, and they can understand what's going on and get that passion for EMS that all of us that have been in the business for a long time had many years ago as well.
Great. Any last words before I turn it over to Mark?
I got nothing. I'm good.
Oh,
Thanks for
you got
having
plenty.
me.
Thank you,
Thanks.
John. Yeah, thanks so much. And so I am gonna now introduce Dr. Mark Iverson, who is the Lamar's High School principal, and again, huge partner in this. And Mark, one of the questions that we have in the chat that I'm just going to ask you to address while you're speaking, please, is the high school student receiving college credit hours? So go ahead and take it away, and if you could include that, that would be great.
Yep, no problem. Thank you, Kathy, and thanks for everyone for attending this morning. Like Kathy said, my name is Mark Iverson. I am an Iowa transplant. I grew up in South Dakota. I actually got on the Vermilion Volunteer Fire Department my sophomore year in college. When I gave up my football career there at USD, I needed something else to kind of take on, I guess, that brotherhood, that sense of brotherhood and that stuff. And so I grew up with the fire chief living 2 houses down from me as a kid. And so I did spend a lot of time in the fire department with him and that stuff. And so joining it just seemed like a second nature to me, like it's something I should just do. In the fire department in Vermilion, I did progress through. I did become an instructor for the South Dakota Fire Service, for the Fire Marshal's office. I was a captain on the fire department before I left to come into Lamar's. This is going to be my 21st year here in Lamar's. So I've been away from the fire service now for 21 years. But this is something that I did feel passionate about. I did see firsthand the need for volunteers. I know Vermilion at that time, back in our 90s, we didn't have a hard time getting volunteers, but as all of our service organizations are seeing that decline in the number of volunteers. And so this is just something I feel we can do as a school to help with that partnership with our community, with our local fire department to do this. In 2017, I was approached by Bill Rosacker, who was the director of EMS at that time here in Lamar's, about offering this class. It didn't take long for Bill to convince me that we needed to do this. Like I said, with my background in the fire service, I knew we needed to have something going at this. So we tried several different models. When we first started this class, we wanted to accommodate kids' schedules, so everything was here at the high school. We had the class at the high school. Bill would bring the equipment in. We'd take an ambulance out of service, and we'd have stuff here at the high school. We had classes here. Eventually, we kind of went to a hybrid where classes were here, and then they went to the station for the labs and the hands-on portions of it. When Bill finally retired and got out of this, Chief Dave Shipper kind of took it over. Mike Wise became our instructor. He had John's position before him, and we moved everything down to the fire station. That just made more sense. Kathy, you were there to see John teach the class. It's easy to teach the class and then move into the station, do labs right there. where you're not trying to have a lab day and a classroom day. It makes it easier for the kids to take knowledge they learn in class and flow right into working on it. And so that part has been very successful. As I see, it's been a positive change for us. John and Mike both did a great job of getting the kids back to school on time, so they're not missing class. They're not getting tardies. I think they must have a little discussion with them about getting back on time. So we haven't had those issues and that stuff. So that's been great. This model for us right now, where they're going to the station, has worked on great. Now you're getting to kind of what involved. So this is a WIT class. It's not necessarily our local class. It is a Western Iowa Tech class. John is a Western Iowa Tech instructor. So these kids do get our high school credit and the college credit for it. And I believe it's 7 credits they get from Western Iowa Tech for this class. Like John says, it starts at 7. It ends, about that 9-ish time. We don't have a limit on who can take the class. So we do look at the kids that register for it, and we do have conversations with some of our kids that maybe have shown in the past not getting to school on time, or they may miss a few days. And we have to talk to them about the importance of, this class does start at 7. You do realize that. You cannot be missing this class because you can't just make this stuff up. When you miss a day of class with EMS, EMT, and that stuff, you're missing a session that John just can't all of a sudden hold everyone else up and come back and teach you this stuff. So it's important for you to be there every day. So we're talking to those kids, the commitment they're making. They're learning life-saving skills that they're trying to apply either through an EMT career or some other type of medical career that our kids are looking at. Several of our kids, take this class initially because they're thinking they want to go on and become a nurse or a doctor. We've had a couple of kids take this class and decide, I want to become an EMT. I know John has one of our former students that has done that. He even went off, left our department for a little bit, went to Lincoln and came back to us and that stuff. You don't know what you're going to spark once the kid gets involved with this. They have one idea in their head where they want to go, and all of a sudden they get that bug and they get bitten, and this is what they want to do. We have this class, available to other students besides just Lamar's community kids. We've had Galen kids in the past as part of this class. This last school year, we signed a share agreement with Hinton. So Hinton sent some kids up to us. Talking to John, we are open to other surrounding schools, if they want to come join us for this class. I guess the more the merrier is kind of been our stance with this. On the school side of things, with the share agreement, that's something our superintendents do. So our superintendent will talk with the Hinton superintendent. They sign that share agreement. Both our school boards will approve that. We get billed by Western Iowa Tech for the classes. So we're billed a section fee and a per student fee. And so then we'll turn around and bill Hinton for basically their share of the fee for what we pay for their kids to take the class. Since we started the class is basically our first class of the 2018-2019 school year. Up until last school year, we've had 60 kids go through this class. I can't tell you the number of kids that have actually passed the test at the end, but we've had 60 kids complete the course. This current school year, we have 13 kids signed up for it, and that's just Lamar's community numbers. That's not getting anything from Galen or Hinton yet. So you're seeing more kids hopefully taking this course. The 7 a.m. hasn't scared too many kids off. I know a lot of the kids that sign up for it, and we have the conversation 7 a.m., they're committed to it. I think that's another one of those things that does kind of weed some of those kids out that may not want to be present and that stuff. More on the school side of things. So like our cost. So what we do is, like we say, we pay the section fee and the per student fee from Western Iowa Tech. In return, the school does get supplemental weighting for college level classes that we don't use to meet the offer and teach requirements through the state. So the EMT is not part of we're not using it to meet our CTE requirements that the state has. And so we get the supplemental funding for it. Now, the supplemental funding doesn't necessarily cover the full cost. The school does eat some of the cost, but it's worth our investment. We feel for what our kids are getting out of it and the relationships, we're making with the fire department, the community, and that stuff. The students do pay for the exam themselves. It's not a required part of the class. If it was a required part of the class, then obviously the school would have to pay for it. But since it's a voluntary expenditure, it is up to the kids. I do believe there might be some grants now available out there to schools for the IRCs, the industry recognized credentials, that schools could apply for to help pay for this in the short term. Obviously, when the grant runs out, you're going to have a plan on how you're going to help either go back to student pay or have another funding source for those kids to take the exam. Trying to think what else, if I'm missing anything here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much our role, Kathy.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. And thanks for sharing the school side. So now we're going to go ahead and move to another model, which has been very successful as well. And I want to introduce next Chandler Thayer, with the Waukee Fire Department. He's a lieutenant and part of the Waukee Fire Department, Waukee Apex DMAC model. So a little different structure, and we're excited to hear about that. Thank you, Chandler.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. So like Kathy said, my name is Lieutenant Chandler Thayer. I work for the Waukee Fire Department. I've been with the Waukee Fire Department now for 9 years. I kind of have an interesting background when it comes to this model. There's actually a little bit of my background that plays into how I became into the instructor role today for the Waukee High School Apex program. Part of that background is I was a Waukee High School student. I went through the Apex program, which is their it stands for Aspiring Professional Experience. It's a program designed at the high school specifically to allow students from any opportunity student within their high school to come to this building, come through the program, and explore different career avenues. So there's multiple different career paths. Obviously, the one I instruct for is under the healthcare tract. Kathleen will speak to potentially the other gamut. They have architecture, engineering, media, all different kinds of avenues of careers that they can explore. I actually got to be part of the first few years of this program while I was still a high school student at the Waukee High School. And so I felt the opportunity to be able to give back to the program. And now that's where I'm at today as an instructor. So just for a little context, with the Waukee Fire Department first, we have a population of 34,000. If you know anything about Waukee and the Des Moines area, the growth out here is tremendous. With that being said, we are, from a fire department perspective, we had just opened just a few months ago our second station as we're experiencing tremendous growth in order to keep up with our call volume within our city. And with that being said, we also, much like the growing trend that you've heard the other presenters speak about, is there's a workforce shortage when it comes to the EMS professional side of things in the emergency services sector. With that being said, our chief officers were exploring pathways for recruitment, and me having this previous connection and having multiple conversations with the chief officers, we eventually approached the school district. And then, well, it kind of was hand in hand. The school district also approached us. It was kind of a joint venture, almost convenient timing between the two entities. And that's how the program got started from the beginning. So again, with my background as an instructor, I came from the Apex program, which was awesome because that's how I got my job today. I actually I did it. What the students are going through today. I was a EMT high school student. I did that in high school. And granted, at the time that I was going through high school, the EMT program did not exist. I did it through an alternative pathway with DMAC, which is the collaborating college entity, Des Moines Area Community College. However, I did have that experience of being a high school student and an EMT student at the same time. So I can kind of share that experience with the students that I get to teach, which is an awesome experience for me. And I think the students appreciated it also because they know that I've been through the same thing. So as far as me becoming an instructor, I was teaching for DMAC after I was probably teaching for DMAC 2 years prior to getting this program started at the Waukee High School. So I was previously an employee of Des Moines Area Community College, and so it made it easy transition for us to transition over and work out a high school model. The high school model with Des Moines Area Community College does exist at other high schools around the metro. However, some of the other programs, and speaking from the success standpoint, have not had as sustained participation levels. And that's largely in part due to the Waukee School District and their commitment to the APEX program. They have such a robust program that is built around this style of learning, which is really, truly the reason that this program remains successful today. The high school support is huge, and I can't reiterate that enough. Kathleen will be able to speak on what those inner workings entail shortly after me. So how does the schedule look for as far as the class goes as me as an instructor? So because I am a full-time fire lieutenant at the Waukee Fire Department, I co-teach. So I have another instructor that also works for the Waukee Fire Department. This is not a requirement. It just so happens that this is what who we were able to find. And he had also been teaching with me multiple years as a co-instructor with DMAC. DMAC has a tendency to find college instructors that do shift work. So traditionally, firefighter, they work odd schedules, whether it's a 24 hours on, 48 hours off. Now my schedule is even more confusing than that. But not to get into that, we have days off in between our regular work days. That allows us to go teach in our off days. And so I'm actually who's paying me to instruct is actually DMAC. I'm wholeheartedly a DMAC instructor. So class timeframes and what that looks like is 12:50 to 2:50 in the afternoon. It's Monday through Friday, and it follows the high school schedule. With that being said, as an instructor, I would teach a maximum of 3 days per week, just because of that rotation schedule that I have with my full-time job, and that being my part-time job. But it does work out really well. It allows for me to have that secondary job and then give back to the students, and they are able to actually speak with actively working fire EMS professionals that are still in the job, still in the career, and actively running calls every single day. The best question I get almost at every start of every class is, what calls did you see yesterday? And it's always spurs the conversation, makes the transition to start class up really easy for the day. With that being said, Waukee, they run 2 classes both semesters for the school year. They've always been full rosters. They do reach out to other school districts, but I mostly, and again, Kathleen will be able to speak to this, they're mostly fulfilled with Waukee High School students because they do have such a large school district. As far as how they get their conversations with their counselors and get approval into the program, she'll be able to speak to that. This is part of the success of the program. However, I do want to touch on that because the students that we get into the class are always committed. They every single time, we don't have problems as instructors having to coach students as far as, I guess to say the normal potential high school student problems of tardiness or things of the like. They're committed when they come into the class, and it allows for a smooth class transition as we get to teach them with a very unique class opportunity. So from a DMAC course breakdown, this is a 6 college credit hour class. This is what the students earn coming out of it. There's 45 hours worth of lecture, 30 lab hours, 48 clinical hours, and this all totals to be 123 hours. This is what the traditional DMAC coursework looks like. So if you were to take this course at a DMAC campus, these are the course hours that are fulfilled. However, because this is a high school class, there are actually more course hours that go into it. This is just additional course time because it allows for the high school student learner to learn and adapt, and having that extra time and filling that with a high school student, there's additional challenges that are involved with some of the high school logistics. So we have kind of that buffer time built into the class each semester. As far as prereqs, the only thing the students need coming in, which the Waukee High School does facilitate, is a CPR requirement. They have to have a CPR card, and there's some troubleshooting that they've been able to work through with years past when we got this program started in order to make that happen. So every time they've come in with the CPR card, and there really hasn't been any major issues there. As far as class structure goes, so as I mentioned, there's lecture and lab. The way the Waukee program is structured, unlike what Lamar's was describing, is we actually host most of the class at their Apex building. So Waukee High School, they do have a separate building for all of these professional experience classes. So we get the opportunity to go to a unique classroom. It's really a classroom designed around professional learning. It mimics almost like a professional office space, and it allows for flexibility for lab use, allows for flexibility for good lecture time, and it really facilitates an excellent learning environment for these students when it comes to actually performing and doing those lab and lecture hours. Any given day of the week or any given week, as far as the class goes, the structure, usually it's about 3 days of lecture, 2 of those days being lab. Part of the interesting and the cool experience for the students is sometimes they do get to go off site to the fire department for that lab time. So this is where the fire department really comes into play here, is that lab time. It's basically a third of the lab time is held at the fire department, 2/3 of the lab time is still held in the classroom. What we found early on in the program, which is something that we changed over time, is that the lab environment being 100% at the fire department was not a good use of time. We found that we have the ability to do the instruction at the classroom, and with the kids when they were just beginning to learn those lab skills, our firefighters that are actively on duty at the time, we're not able to facilitate all steps of those skills because they would get called out, or there would be an actual 911 emergency. And so then they would be broken up. The student would have a gap in learning. And so what we've kind of transitioned to is moving that lab time at the fire department towards the middle to the end of the semester. So that way the students still get that experience at the fire department. We get to run more scenario-based things there, as well as they get to touch the actual equipment, look at the actual ambulances. And this all actually preps them for their clinical experiences in the field where they're actually riding the ambulance. Part of that clinical experience is they get to do ride time. They have at least 36 hours of ride time on an ambulance, at least 12 of those in our program, and what the fire department shoots for, at least 12 of those is hosted at Waukee Fire Department. Most of the time it is 2/3 of that. So usually full 24 hours is held at Waukee, but it just does depend on the semester and depends on the volume of students that we have per semester. It's really nice, as other presenters have spoke to in the past. It provides that mentorship because duty crews that they're getting to see in the lab setting when they're still learning their skills get to coach them during that experience. They get even further coaching and comfortability when they're actually performing the job tasks of doing that ride time as required per the class. So it's a unique situation for the students, and it really, I've definitely seen a highlight in the benefit as the students will show up to the fire department and call fire department members by their name because they've already been introduced. And it makes that transition of a really intimidating environment of learning for a high school student. It eases that tension and definitely allows for a better success during those ride times. So
Awesome.
that's probably one of the best parts of that.
Chandler, thanks.
Yeah.
Do you have a last comment before I turn it over to Kathleen?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as far as the impact that this makes on students, I've seen, and I get to work with students in the ERs that I go to every single day. We've already hired 2 students at the Waukee Fire Department that's come from the class, and continue to see students popping up all over. So it's
Awesome.
Definitely very, very satisfying. And we, as a fire department, have seen a tremendous value added to the program.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Chandler. And a question came in, and I wonder quickly, do you limit the number of instructors that assist you? This question just came in. So do you want to take
Yeah,
that?
so typically it's 2 instructors. We have done a model with 3 instructors in the past, and that also worked. But typically between the 2 instructors kind of helps keep things a little bit more organized. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Kathleen, I want to introduce Kathleen Sender. She is the administrator at the Waukee Innovation and Learning Center and is going to take us on the school side of this. So thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy, for having me. I wish I would have gone before Chandler because he stole a lot of my thunder. But like he said, I'm Kathleen Sender. I'm the administrator for our work-based learning programming here at the Waukee Innovation and Learning Center. That is the building in our district specifically designed or houses the majority of our work-based learning programming. I've been with Waukee School since 2014 and been involved in our Apex program since 2018 and kind of have transitioned into this administrator role over the past couple of years. Apex in general, like Chandler said, stands for Aspiring Professional Experience. And again, Waukee has, it's in our strategic plan for our district over the next 5 years. Priority number 1 is to get 100% graduation rate, but also 100% of our graduating class has at least one work-based learning experience throughout their high school career. And along with that, a 2-year plan after graduation. So this idea of work-based learning is a huge priority for our district. So we're extremely lucky in that regard that creates a lot of support district-wide and community-wide for our programming. Another thing Chandler did, I think, was downplay his role in the success of our EMT program. Our program would not be where it is today without the dedication and passion that our instructors bring. So we're very grateful for that partnership as well. So just in general, again, Apex, that work-based learning program, the course offerings that we have here were presented and developed and created based on the economic drivers in the Des Moines metro area. The idea is that our programming here is sort of this like economic development rooted in education. And so our main goal, again, is to give our students that experience so they have a plan after graduation and that we continue developing and promoting the economy within the Des Moines metro. We want our students to stay in Iowa. And so with that, healthcare is always a huge employment piece of this. And so we have a pretty extensive health and human services sector, I would say, and EMT plays a huge role in that. We also offer exploration of health sciences and medicine, a biomedical research course. We have exercise and sports science along with our CNA and EMT programs. And again, because this is all written into our strategic plan, we're fortunate, again, to get lots of support. So just like our other healthcare strands, these courses give students access to work alongside professionals to gain that real world experience in these courses, along with kind of, as you mentioned in your intro, Kathy, those skills that are so important, those 21st century skills or transferable skills or whatever it may be, that the majority of employers continuously tell us that what they need to see in their future employees. So again, together, all of this kind of creates that continuum of opportunities for our students to explore like the many facets of healthcare and human services. EMT is unique because it gives students like that early entry point to emergency medicine and to the healthcare field in general. while again, kind of like Chandler mentioned, that strong foundation that they can carry forward into other areas. It also gives them that credential that they can put to use immediately, which is also very unique to our programming. It's not necessarily that exploration piece of our APEX program. It's those industry recognized credentials that a student can get while still in high school and put it to use immediately. So again, like, why is all this important to us? It goes back to our priority number one, those work-based learning experiences, and it helps create that pipeline of education to employment. So talking about enrollment, it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit based on enrollment in any course. But again, our enrollment has just continuously progressed, again, highly due to our instructors that we're lucky to get, and then that close relationship that we have with DMAC in all of our programming. So just to give you a few numbers, when the first year of the course was held, we had a total of 32 enrolled. We took a little bit of a dip that next year. This upcoming school year, we have increased class sizes by 2 or 3. And that was a decision that was made with us and the need and the willingness of our instructors to host that number of students. So we are up to 36 total students registered in our program for the year, with 10 more on a wait list. And that's just for our EMT program. That's not our healthcare services in total. It's always one of our biggest enrolled, and EMT is becoming very popular. And we had, of our like 28 students, I think that we had last year, 15 took the national test and passed. A few more, I think, have registered, but we haven't heard whether or not they passed, which is, again, a huge compliment to our instructors, because I think, as John mentioned, how hard that test is. And so they were able to take the test. The school district was able to pay for it for them via grants and our CTE funding, Perkins funding, all of that stuff. And so they got that credential, and like Chandler mentioned, a few of them have put it to use immediately. So again, most of my talking points have already been mentioned. So again, based on like the structure of the class and things, we have this incredible building here that we were in that transition from one high school to 2 high schools. And so we opened this building to house the majority of our work-based learning programming, APEX being the main source of that programming. And so students are able to come here, like Chandler mentioned, in that professional environment, which just levels up the expectations immediately. And then lots of conversations about how this is a collegiate level course. Yes, you're still in high school, but the expectations are still there, and the students get it. They get it immediately, and we're very fortunate for that. And as far as like to add on to funding, I think, or how this program got started, we were issued a grant initially to get the necessary equipment for the start of the program. And since then, our building budget, some of it is allotted to our EMT classes to continue buying that equipment that they need, some of those consumables and things like that that we need to replace yearly. And again, those lab days at the fire department also help as well. So that's kind of it from my perspective, unless anybody else has any specific questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathleen. So a couple of things that I want to I've made some notes on, and also Michael put a question in the chat about, has a program like this been attempted in any rural school districts that don't have a full-time fire EMS service in the community? And then John, you did share that the Lamar's program was started and run the first 3 to 4 years when your service was not full-time. Do you want to take 30 seconds and comment any more on that, John, or does anybody else? And then I have a couple of other points. So
yeah, our EMS service was a volunteer service at the time. We had a director, but he wasn't full-time per se. He was just kind of the guy that oversaw it. He was actually a banker by trade as well. So that program was actually started at that point. And then we've morphed as a department into a full-time service due to needs, but it can actually be done. It has actually been done. We actually started it that way when it was on a volunteer side.
thank you.
And Kathy, that's for the reason our 7 a.m. class.
Yes.
That's the time that really worked for Bill, because he was on the bank side of things too. So that's kind of where that led into.
Perfect. Thank you both. And Also, it's a great question, Michael, and I'm glad you shared it. It's part of the conversation that goes on with all of this. And the other thing, and I know there are challenges, there are transportation and everything, but I also just want to point out the Lamar's program provides that for many communities around them who have just solely volunteer fire departments, I believe, because you have, then your students are doing some work on that. So that's a way that they've kind of made that available to some of those areas that do not have, that have an all volunteer fire service or fire EMT service. So, so great question. Okay, a couple of things before we wrap up. Again, one pager in the chat, my contact information, Linda's contact information. I think you can see that we have incredibly dedicated folks who have presented to you today, who have tried different things, figured out how to make this work successfully, and in very different settings. And they have been really very generous with their time to help us pull together next steps and things that we can do. Thank you, Tracy, for putting your contact. If anybody else is willing to put your contact in there, just so somebody could contact you directly if they have questions, that would be great. But what I want to say is, again, this is a really critical issue. Iowa needs EMT providers. We need healthcare providers, and working together in different ways, people have made this work. And I just feel like it would be amazing to have this across the state for students and for communities. A couple of strong things that you guys hit on that I want to reiterate is the mentoring and the community connection that students get when they're participating in this type of a program. Also, what I want to say is there's a lot of information. So it's funded in different ways. It's the schedules are different, that, you know, all of those things that we heard here. But if you're out there and you're thinking, maybe I just want to learn a little bit about this, please reach out to myself or Linda. And because of these folks, we have pulled together tools and supports and ways that we can technically assist you. And you feel like there's so many partners, how do I do this? Because we know you have full-time jobs, right? This is something that you're going to have to get done, you know, kind of on the fly for a while. We can help you make the connections. We can help get the questions answered. You know, how do I fund this? Okay, we can get some information from, that's what we want to do, is facilitate this process, knowing that it'll probably be different in many different places, but this is a goal of ours too, and it really can benefit so many people. So please don't step away because it feels like there's a lot of information. If you're interested, let us know so we can work together. Let's see if I have any. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention, and I think Kathleen, you said this, I also wanted to say you are spot on that you're looking at your economic drivers in how you want to, you know, make those opportunities available for students. And if there are school districts out there who want help looking at those economic drivers, let us know. We have lots of labor market information at IWD. We can help you with that as well. So please know us as a resource. Okay, let's see. Again, I'm just going to say, if you are interested in partnering, reach out to us. And so I'm seeing that here, which is great. Thank you so much. And sorry, but we're about done. I just feel like, I had one more point. Sorry, I have 30 seconds. One more point. I just want to say that one of the things that I think these opportunities are providing is, if you think about the high school students that were graduating, the more students who can graduate with a high demand skill, I think the better, because whether their pathway is to go right into the workforce, which we love, or whether it's to go to post-secondary, which we love, they're both good. But if they have a skill, a high demand skill, that helps them in that workforce pathway, but it also helps them because we know sometimes you have to work part-time while you're going to college, that it's expensive. So then if you have that, you can earn that, part-time income or something. Also, if something happens and you have to step out of that post-secondary program, boom, you have something that you can rely on. I think that's a great way to prepare students. And so kudos to all of you doing that in this area and so many more. So I just want to thank this panel, great example of Iowa hard work, commitment, dedication, and everything else. So I am done now, 9 o'clock. Everybody, thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to working with anybody interested. Thank you. Thanks, panel. Thanks, everybody.